Ever wondered what makes TV so powerful in Jamaica? Time to find out. Welcome to Global TV Group 358, where television meets innovation. We're not just about shows, we're about shaping society. In Jamaica, TV keeps you informed, connects diverse voices, and supports democracy. Imagine a Jamaica where broadcasters unite, sharing data and collaborating globally. That's us, a unified voice in the TV industry. Did you know TV advertising is still king? It drives website traffic, boosts brand equity, and powers integrated campaigns. Even in an age of digital, TV stands strong, resilient in tough times. Our global TV deck is your treasure trove of insights and data. With charts, graphs, and success stories, it's your guide to impactful TV advertising. Curious to learn more? Visit our website and see how Global TV Group 358 keeps television at the heart of entertainment in Jamaica. Get ready to binge watch the future.
Oh, thy peace, God of my salvation, because the mouth of the sinful and wicked is open. Rastafari. Come with I. Rastaman throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Not a people there. Make a man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Only when man like Marcus Garvey speak, wicked men would I hear. Hear now hear. Instead of that, they only sit aside a rub and cheat, and not press the poor. Make out what I seen to. Make a man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a plan. Make a man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. So, my favorite part, if Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red, I. How they want to see, they didn't can sell out Rasta, and sell it out, I sell out Babylon. They give man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. They give man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. If Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see, they didn't can sell out Rasta, I sell out Babylon. Just stop on the front. You might throw a stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a black thing, man, throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. You have eyes to see, let him see. You have ears to hear, let them hear. What a prophet must say. President Mandela was in prison for 20 odd years. And he leave from the prison and take the seat of the president. Stone one. Big man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what's a black big man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Rasta man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men.
Good evening from London. It's still good morning to you on the Eastern timeline. Welcome back to Global TV. We did tell you that we will be coming back out for the People's National Party press conference, which should get on the way in about a half an hour's time. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Like and share the live, please. Like and share the live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. How are you all doing? It's late morning, your neck of the woods, but we are back at our second round to bring to you the People's National Party press conference, where we expect Mark Golden and his team to speak to us on matters of the election. So we are waiting for that. And as soon as it gets on the way, we'll bring it to you. But I want to talk about Kevin Blake and Wayne Cameron. One of the things that I don't like with the JLP government, or those who are aligned to the JLP government, whenever time they make a blunder, they don't seem to come out and address it any at all. They just allow it to die out. Now, there's an internal issue with Kevin Blake and Wayne Cameron. Rather than Kevin Blake follow the proper internal procedures of addressing the issue, Kevin Blake just jump out a road. Hold on. Hold on there. Sorry, we get to screen. Police is forcing the school children to go into the bus. But see here, well, I'm gonna have to screen record that and bring it to you shortly. There is an internal procedure to deal with dispute, but rather than Kevin Blake with the DR title, quite an up there title in the academic world, Kevin Blake took to social media to put out vacancy for the man's job, who he hasn't even fired him. Him just come out, come make it known that the man's job, Wayne Cameron job, is vacant. Now it turned out Kevin Blake has no jurisdiction when it comes to what he has done. Even if Kevin Blake had jurisdiction to just publish the post vacant without having the issue explored internally, it tells you the type of person we're dealing with as a commissioner of police. So even the trade union, I wonder if we can read the article here. Come and I them not feel decent, you know. The trade union, Jamaica Confederation for Trade Union people, them, even them come out alarmed of the situation. JCTU condemns interference of POA and call for respect of international labor standards. We just go to this still press conference ready. Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions say the Ministry of Labor must uphold both national and international labor standards, or it seeks intervention from the International Labor Organization following a directive from the police commissioner that the chair of the Police Officers Association vacates vacate his post. The JCTU said it is deeply alarmed by the directive issued by the Commissioner of Police, Dr. Kevin Blake, ordering that chairman of the Police Officers Association, Senior Superintendent Wayne Cameron, vacate his post and be denied recognition by the police high command. This unprecedented action strikes at the heart of freedom of association, undermine democratic representation, and place Jamaica in direct violation of its obligation under the Constitution of Jamaica and core international labor organization. And core labor organization conventions and the JCTU said on Wednesday. Hold on there. The International Labour Organization Convention 87, Freedom of Association, which guarantees that workers' organizations shall elect their representative in full, free, and conduct their administration and activities without interference by public authorities. By seeking to unseat the duly elected chair, who was chosen by the police, the POA members in November 2022, and those moderate whose moderate mandate continues until 2025. The commissioner has intruded into the internal governance of the association. The further denial of access to the high command restrict the POA ability to fulfill its representative responsibility, said the JCTU. It claimed Blake also violates International Labour Organization Convention 98, right to organize and collectively bargaining, which protect workers' organizations from act of anti-union discrimination, particularly against elected leaders and employers' interference in their administration and function. The JCTU said Blake order is a violation of the Constitution of Jamaica, as the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom provide that all persons are entitled to freedom of association and equity before the law. The POA derives its authority from the democratic will of its members, not from the employer, said the Confederation. So, one of the problems we have with these people, when they make these sort of blunder, they have no recognition for the general public or no remorse for their wrongful act or their blunder. Now, Kevin Blake, if he is as intelligent as what we've seen on paper, then he ought to follow the internal procedure. I mean, to get to that level and you don't know, Kevin Blake, DR, how to deal with an internal dispute. This is why we have to ask the question, is Kevin Blake becoming a dictator? Because if Kevin Blake is not a dictator, then Kevin Blake would even bypass the internal mechanism to deal with employment dispute and just jump out in a public and why when I report my platform and I'm not doing anything labor rights, I'm talking about what Kevin Blake done with what we have to protect Jamaicans. Let me tell you, on over TikTok where I report my platform. You see, if this apply to Wayne Cameron, who is so high up in the security forces, imagine what you down there, how your employers would be allowed to treat you if things like these are allowed to slide and there's a dispute between you and your employer or another colleague at work and you are just been told to up and leave without even exploring what the problem is, if you are the problem or somebody else is the problem. Do you understand how dangerous it is for your livelihood? Because you would have to creep on your knees and agree to all sort of fuckery that you probably don't agree with or believe in order to keep a job. Do you understand the dangers of silence or the dangers of being pushed into silence? It means them can take more liberties of us. So when you see things like this happen, blatant violation, where Kevin Blake is saying, you have no right to complain about me. You have no right to challenge me, given how high I'm sitting on the chair. You are subservient to me. You must do what I say. If you have an issue, swallow it and go to bed. This is what Kevin Blake is saying, you know. Because if Kevin Blake don't respect following the internal procedures as a top ranking in the Jamaica Constabulary Force or commissioner, the one below the Minister of Government. He's the one below Horace Chang. He's the operational and administrative head of the police. So you have to think about what could happen to you if that could also happen to you, just like it is happening to members of the security service. And I don't know why members of the security service don't see what the government, the government is fast becoming a dictator to them more than anybody else. Because you remember the fight Ron James had with them representing the Federation. Sorry. And them never stop until them push out Ron James. And what they further did the other day is try to block Rowan James' democratic participation from voting. He came out and told us, now we're seeing this same commissioner attack on another high official member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Now, what you have to be careful of as a country, Kevin Blake with the DR title wants the Jamaica Constabulary Force to sing with one voice. He wants them to sing with one voice. And that is a slow walk into dictatorship. It means if they're given an order, it mustn't be questioned. Even if them know the order is illegal under their constitution, under the country's constitution, they must follow it. Even if something is going wrong, you must not criticize it. Because if Kevin Blake can do this, to a high official, a superintendent like Wayne Cameron, what would happen to a guardroom officer? Hmm? What would happen to a guardroom officer out there? What would happen to someone very low down in the rank, a constable or a sergeant or whatever? So you understand these people are working under duress from the top. Because what Kevin Blake is saying, go along or get along. Don't challenge me. If you don't happy about any issue you have with me, move on. But you're not going to get it dealt with here. This is dangerous. This is happening in the Jamaica Constabulary Force. So don't be surprised. Yes, Esther, I had a operation the other day to remove cancer, but I wasn't sick before or after. It was just about having the operation and recovering from the operation. If this is happening to members of the security services, do you understand how dangerous it is for us who in society we say we don't have no power? Nobody no recognize we, nobody no care about we. At least you wouldn't think so. Superintendent have that audience with the commissioner. Hmm? You know what I naturally think so? You would naturally think he would have had that audience, senior superintendent. Hmm? You would have thought he would have had that audience with the commissioner. TikTok, when the stream go live, I'll turn your camera around. You would expect the commissioner and a senior superintendent, or there is a mechanism at the senior level how to deal with dispute. But what Kevin Blake is exposing the Jamaica defense, the Jamaica rather constabulary force here, is that there's no internal mechanism in dealing with dispute. Or if there is one, Kevin Blake does not give a toss about it. And that will not get from it. Hmm? Tell me what else are you getting from it? Is either there is no mechanism at the Jamaica Constabulary Force to deal with internal issues at whatever level you may be at, or they're willfully airing the thing, they're looking aside. Hmm? The man take the thing to social media. And then everybody realize Kevin has no authority to do it. This was not something that was explored. The man never stepped down or whatever. And Kevin Blake is quiet. Hmm? He has received a court injunction barring Kevin Blake nonsense. But Kevin Blake is rather quiet and disrespectful with his quietness, because he did not hesitate to come out and make his social media blunder. And this is the JLP run aligned government, how them behave. Remember what Juliet Holness did to Valerie Curtis? Valerie Curtis heard all of what was going around about Valerie Curtis then. She heard it in the news. While Juliet had email going all over around Parliament about her, but she had no knowledge of all of what was going on and the blame game that her name was thrust into. So when Kevin Blake come, Rowan James had to go. You can't in a them position there and have shame. Because if you never have shame when you come out and make the JCF look like worse than a patty shop, the JCF solve dispute like a market star, like market vendor, Kevin Blake. So you know for shame. You have to come out and deal with the situation because you come out here, come make the JCF look like them dispute mechanism is a market style because you throw things on social media where you don't even have the authority to do, Kevin Blake. So if you come out, come apologize and correct on a nonsense when you not do it. You hear how we are warning the Jamaicans about dictatorship? We are warning you about the dictatorship of this government and those who are aligned with them. Kevin Blake is a full-on JLP mad dog because that's how they all behave. This put the Jamaica Constabulary Force into disrepute. And I hope those young constabularies and lower than the rank of a superintendent is actually watching what's going on here. Because your job is not safe if you don't take orders from the commissioner. The commissioner can just come on social media and sack you. This is dangerous for democracy, Jamaica. But when we talk to you about the slow walk we are moving into dictatorship, the slow walk move we're on, you all don't recognize it because if Kevin Blake can treat a senior superintendent like this, if Kevin Blake can totally evade the internal procedures of dealing with a dispute and come live and come publish documents sacking the man, what that you don't have authority to do. This is dangerous for us as a country. When this is the same man where police us, Jamaica, wake up. Wake the hell up. This is the same guy who is policing all of us. And this is the same guy that come out and put out a statement sacking or trashing out an internal dispute in public. How can this not bring the JCF into disrepute? How can you then trust a disciplinary procedure at the JCF where Kevin Blake is at the helm of it? It really don't make no sense. The link has come live. Let me turn around TikTok screen. Bear with me. Bear with me, TikTok. I need to spin your camera around and remove your thingy. How this work, you know? Right effects. You know how there's something you work on the live, you know? The flip camera. Effects. Bear with me, TikTok. Murdo. I hold them something you go again. Bear with. Right, so hold on the TikTok. The stream is live. When they're ready for talk, it will come up. Let me fix the TikTok screen so TikTok can see all the going in hands and all that jazz. So that's your screen, TikTok. I will turn the light off. I'm gonna turn the light off for TikTok to give them a little bit of viewing. So it gives TikTok. Oh, sorry. So it gives TikTok a little better viewing. Don't mind me, because I'm gonna close up the YouTube screen with the PNP conference, because they should start talking soon. But while they are ready, we'll continue to talk until them come up. But this is something what we take serious, my peeps. This is no joking issue. What we see Kevin Blake do is very dangerous, not only for the Jamaica Constabulary Force members, but for all of us as a country. Because if other employers see it run free in the JCF, then other employers are going to think it is okay for us to cheat our employees like that. As soon as they have an issue and raise a concern, we tell them, say, go on a yard. Let me also pull up a Facebook page for the PNP as well. Hold on, let me pull up a page for them. Oh gosh. I'm trying to log in here. Bear with. I'm trying to log into my Facebook as well. Oh, my phone with the notification I go to. Bear with me, the my page. Oh, you see it, yeah. You need to find the phone with the notification I go to log into my Facebook. So I can pull up the screen. Hold on there. Something come out of my way, you know?
Are you ready? Oh, thanks. Good. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the People's National Party headquarters. And here with me today, we have the leader of the party and the leader of the opposition, Mr. Mark Bowden. And to his immediate right, the legal advisor of the party, member of parliament from Western St. Andrew, Anthony Hilton. Today, we're going to be having a discussion with you, the members of the media and the wider public, in relation to some happenings around the outcome of the general elections that were held just over a week ago. Some may be wondering why it took us so long to speak, but we are of the opinion that you have to have the discomfort of thought before you have the comfort of opinion. In other words, you should first seek to understand before seeking to be understood. And so we took the time so we could examine the information that is out there. We could meet with the officer corps of the party, which we did yesterday, and to meet with the candidates. And we also had that meeting as well yesterday. We will undergo a process of review that will start from the constituency level, getting a report from the individual constituencies. We will also get a report from the regions based on how our party is structured. And of course, there will also be a national appraisal committee that will look at the elections, the election results, what we did right, what we did wrong, what we need to improve on, and the process to implement any change. Now I'm going to ask the leader of the party to give a more general overview of the elections and the way forward.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good morning. I wish to thank all who supported our election campaign, all of our 63 candidates and their campaign teams, our party workers, our supporters who came out and voted for our candidates, our bloggers, our donors and contributors, our election day workers, our police, military. We increased our vote nationally in this election by over 97,000 Jamaicans. And we doubled the number of seats that we hold in Parliament from 14 to 28. Our team in Parliament is strong, and we will be a formidable force in the Parliament of the land to hold the government to account and to defend the rights and interests of the Jamaican people. I'm happy to announce that all our MPs elect, except for one who is traveling abroad, have signed a letter to the Governor General confirming their support for me to be appointed leader of the opposition. Since the election, our party has been active. A meeting of the officers of the party was held yesterday to discuss the way forward and internal issues that we need to chart a time frame for, related to things like our various internal conferences, annual conference, and so on. This was followed by another gathering of our candidates and the national campaign team to thank everyone for their efforts and to have initial dialogue around the conduct of the elections in each constituency. Written reports from each constituency team will be required, and further evaluations are to follow. And the General Secretary mentioned an appraisal committee which will be constituted to do an overall in-depth assessment of what took place. And our executive committee of the party will recommence its meetings on Monday coming. I now want to address the widespread concerns that have been expressed in the public domain about the conduct of the general election last week, Wednesday, the 3rd of September, 2025. As a responsible political movement that is committed to nation building and national development, it was important that we should await having reliable information before speaking to these issues, rather than proceeding on raw emotion and hearsay. Having waited for the final count to establish the official results in each constituency, including ascertaining the number of spoiled or rejected ballots and how these were apportioned between the two parties, the advice that we have received from our lawyers who attended the final counts is that a magisterial recount is unlikely to change the outcome in any of the seats. In the case of West Central St. Andrew, however, the nature of the irregularities which took place there is being carefully scrutinized in anticipation of a case being brought to the constituted authority for appropriate relief. I won't be able to answer more questions on that today. That matter is with our lawyers. While we don't have sufficient evidence to mount a legal challenge against the outcome of the elections, we are nonetheless deeply concerned at the extensive and I would say vulgar use of state resources to impact the outcome of the election over the campaign period. Specifically, the massive political advertising paid for by ministries, departments, and agencies of government during and up to election day at the cost of taxpayers to benefit the incumbent JLP administration is problematic. And we are going to have to, as a nation, look at the way in which public resources are used in support of political achievements in the election period. We're also concerned about the unprecedented scale of distribution of benefits, black tanks, fertilizer, building materials, cash, by both the state and the Jamaica Labour Party. And in some cases, it's very different to distinguish one from the other. And we have received numerous reports of widespread suppression of PNP votes across marginal constituencies, with reports of very large sums of money being paid. And this strategy was enhanced by the timing of the elections and related giveaways in the back-to-school week, when parents in low-income families in particular are most vulnerable and could be financially induced to prioritize loyalty to their families and their children over party loyalties. A second concern we have is in relation to some aspects of the operations as conducted by the Electoral Office of Jamaica. We think there should be an independent inquiry into the operation of the 2025 general election, and it should be urgently undertaken with changes implemented for future elections, because we need to improve the processes. In particular, the process that results in hours-long waits at many polling stations by voters who turn out to vote, frustrating electors and causing many to leave without voting. And this factor is exacerbated by the law, which only gives 3 hours as a window to employees to be away from their workplace during working hours for voting, which is clearly inadequate in Jamaica's modern realities when you consider the time for transportation to get to a polling station from the workplace, depending on where the person works and where they vote, and the lengthy delays in the lines in some polling stations. We also need to look at the use of finger inking. That was originally implemented to prevent multiple voting, but it currently facilitates voter suppression as persons are being induced financially to dip their finger in ink prior to the vote and then being paid not to vote. And we have several reports.
Keep tapping up the screen, please, globally.
We're also concerned about the black book, and we believe that the polling that is used in polling stations, it must be made available during the polling process for viewing by indoor agents and not left entirely to the presiding officer to identify voters who present themselves without IDs. Because if the presiding officer is operating in a way that is not satisfactory from an independent, impartial point of view, there needs to be the ability of the indoor agents on either side to scrutinize what is going on there. And the integrity of the voters list needs to be re-verified through a comprehensive re-verification of voters to clean it of dead voters in particular and other voters who don't have a place of residence in the constituency where they vote. We will be sending teams into those constituencies which were most affected by these issues to conduct a field survey. This survey will empower Jamaicans who experienced or witnessed these issues to share their experiences with us. Many persons are deeply upset by what took place, and this process will allow them to get some closure. It will also assist us to advocate for changes to the law and the processes of elections that will ultimately help to protect Jamaica's democracy from tactics that clearly affected the ultimate outcome of the 25 general election and which are not contemplated by the system that we have. I will now hand over to our legal advisor.
Thank you, Party Leader. As you said at the beginning,
come change it, Mike, please.
As community, we are at this time not intending to have any magisterial recount. Other processes that are available, legal processes that are available, are being looked at based on the evidence that will come forward. I would just echo the point that you make about a review of the management of the election by the EOJ. I think after almost 30 years of a system that was robust at the beginning, I think there is no concern that gaps are opening up and they need to be examined. And we will be doing so by the processes that you are outlining in the various constituencies and regions as well. So the other point really is the legislative and regulatory improvements that may well result from all of this, which is to ensure that the use of state resources prior to and during elections are much better managed. And I think there are clearly loopholes there, and we need to fill those gaps through the legislation and law regulation. And I believe that the point was well made by the abuse that we saw during this election. Those are the points I will make at this time.
Thank you, MP Hilton. No, so in relation to I know one of the media houses carried an article saying that we were going for a magisterial recount in 2 constituencies. I'm not sure where they got that report from, because we did not give that information to the media. We know that on the night of election you have a preliminary count, and in the days after you have the final count, which we waited on, so we could get what is the official result from the EOJ. And after looking at that, we realized that there were 3 constituencies: Central Kingston, East Central St. Catherine, and Northern Trelawney, where the number of rejected ballots were more than the margin of victory. However, when we consulted with the teams that were present for the final count, we were reliably advised by them that of the rejected ballots, they are split roughly evenly between the 2 main political parties, and therefore you would not get any material change in the result in the constituencies. And as a result of that, we took a decision not to pursue any magisterial recount. So that is the official position of the People's National Party. We do have some other concerns of acts of intimidation, aggression, and vandalism that would have taken place since the elections have been concluded, and specifically in South St. James, in the Anchovy Division, persons have been making threats about removing the water pumps, and I think they even made reference to using dynamite and other things like that to destroy the infrastructure. We've seen videos as well and heard voice notes of persons in Eastern Portland that would have made comments that resources would be limited to the newly elected Member of Parliament, Isaac Buchanan. We have seen as well in Southeast St. Mary, where there's been vandalism of a community center and the removal of certain infrastructure in that area. And probably the most concerning of them all is in South Trelawney, where a team from the Labour Party, led by persons in leadership, went to the house, the accommodation of our candidate Paul Patmore, to threaten him. We believe that these things are intended to intimidate and weaken the democratic process within the country. And we are calling on the members of the Labour Party, the leadership, to rein in their supporters and for them to understand that we do believe in a democratic process and we have to accept the outcome. Similarly to how we have accepted the result at the national level, it can't be that they accept it at the national level, but at the constituency level, they are reluctant to accept that Isaac Buchanan did defeat Anne-Marie Vaz in a free and fair election that took place in East Portland, and that as the duly elected representative, you should be accorded with all the respect and the authority that should be conveyed on such a office. We also want to encourage our candidates across the length and breadth of the country to remove the paraphernalia that was put up during the time of campaigning. And some of our candidates will not have much to do because their opponents already removed them before the elections. But for those that still have up some material, we're going to ask them, use this opportunity to ask them to remove those paraphernalia from the different constituencies. And I know that the municipal corporations will be playing a role in ensuring that we can return to normalcy. The matter surrounding West Central St. Angelo is a matter, as was said by the leader of the party, that the legal team that has been engaged by our candidate is putting together their documents, and for further information on that, they will speak at a later date. And so we'll leave it at that, and I'll now open the floor to get any questions that may exist. Who's monitoring this? Is it Nationwide or Riva? What is the appropriate name?
Siobhan Campbell, still Nationwide News. My question is to Mr. Golding. Based on the concerns raised, are you casting doubt on the legitimacy of the outcome of the 2025 general elections? And are you concerned that such doubts would raise speculation of Jamaican people and cast a shadow on Jamaica's electoral process?
I'm concerned about the widespread reports that we have received of voter suppression strategies that were employed, in particular to dissuade our supporters and in some instances our workers from voting, and in the case of workers from turning up in some instances for the elections. I'm not seeking to in any way suggest that we are not accepting that the government that has been elected will be duly constituted. I don't want to go down that road. I don't think that's a wise road for Jamaica. But I also think it's important that we don't sweep things under the carpet, which have become and which were in this election a significant factor at play. And the use of financial resources to suppress votes, based on what we have heard, these are now indirect reports. That's why we're going to go through a process of going into the field to hear from people directly what they experienced and what they saw. But based on the reports that we've received, this is a matter which really needs to be confronted by Jamaican democracy, and certainly by our party going forward as to how we can try to respond to these types of tactics, which have become a central part of how our opponent operates in trying to secure power for themselves.
Let me just comment a little more on what the party just said, which is that in Guyana, recently there was a general election in Guyana on September 1, I think we're all aware. Coming out of that election, the EU delegation, European Union delegation, has issued a report. And when I read the report, a lot of what they commented on and expressed concern about were actually at play, certainly complained of widely in the Jamaican situation. And that tells you that they are the question of the democratic process being legitimized is also a question of the various activities and the concerns and the issues that are raised that will affect the quality of the democracy. And I think that a lot of the concerns that are being raised here and need to be pursued is about not just the specific legal aspects, but about some of the concerns and gaps that may have opened up in our electoral system that needs to be addressed.
Morning, Desmond Richards here, Rebel Radio. Mr. President, have you identified reasons why the party lost? And secondly, what are your concerns about the low voter turnout? And I would like to hear if the party has plans to encourage voters to poll their votes.
I would say that there's something perplexing about the voter turnout statistics, based on the fact that during the campaign, right through to the end of the campaign, the energy and enthusiasm on the ground was palpable, significant, and suggested that there would have been a stronger turnout. As indeed, the polls, right up to the last poll, which was published on the Sunday before the election, indicated that, based on the expressions of persons polled, they were expecting a significantly higher turnout. What happened on the day needs to be examined carefully. I think it was a combination of factors at play. I think that there were persons who didn't vote because the lines were long and slow, often in the hot sun, sometimes in the rain, and they got fed up and left. I think that the financial inducements of which I speak or have spoken were a major factor as well in dissuading some people from voting. In terms of why we didn't win the election, we lost it narrowly. If we had 4 more seats, we would form government today. And when we look at the seats that we have in mind, we lost all of those by less than 500 votes. And in all of those, some of the issues which I raised were prominent factors at play. So obviously, I don't want to prejudge what the appraisal committee will say based on their investigations. But as I said, the low voter turnout is a bit of a mystery as to why that transpired, given what we know and what we saw and what we felt during the campaign. I would say one other thing, which is that the voters list itself has not been cleansed comprehensively for over a decade. I can't even remember when the last proper re-verification. Early 2000s. So it's probably 2 decades now since that was done. And given the nature of our population, how people move around, move to other parts of Jamaica to seek work, and that sort of thing, and the people who die, and there's no automatic removal of voters on there. The number on the voters list from which the percentage turnout is derived is a questionable number. And so the voter turnout statistic itself is necessarily understated. The degree of understatement is what we don't know.
And if I may add to that, the People's National Party polled an additional 97,000 votes over the 2020 elections. The Jamaica Labour Party polled 5,000 more over that time. And as has been said, if you look at some of our areas, there was significant suppression that took place in some of our areas by personally inducing individuals in there not to go to vote. And with the long lines that were present at the polling station, there is a question for the ECJ to answer. Because if we had a turnout of only 39% and we had such long lines with such delays, one shudder to think what would have happened if the turnout had been 50%. Because significant delays took place on the day. I was on the phone from early with the director trying to resolve some of the issues. And you did have persons in those lines that turned away. So we lost 4 constituencies by less than 500 votes. Each of those constituencies have over 100 polling stations. It's just 5 persons in each of those that got frustrated and left and would have made that difference. And so it is a significant thing, and I think we have to resolve how we do this thing. I was third in line at my polling station and didn't vote until I was there before 7. Didn't vote until about 10 minutes to 8 before I completed the exercise. That's just not acceptable in my opinion. So there was a decision that was taken that persons that showed up without ID should have been placed in a separate line, and that you should have started the process from outside with an additional agent. That did not obtain in all constituencies. And so you had, in some cases, what appeared to be a deliberate attempt for persons to turn up without the IDs to deliberately slow down the process. And so there is a need for a proper review of the process, and for us to ensure that the elections are indeed free and fair, and that people can express their rights.
And I'll just add that if you anticipated a larger turnout, which the poll suggested we may have had, then the planning, it seems to me, was inadequate. The planning by the EOJ must have been inadequate because, in the event, only 39% or so turned up, and we actually
voted, not turned up.
Well, voted,
Yeah.
actually voted, and we actually covered. So, and low turnout, vote turnout. So I think the planning has to be questioned, and perhaps an audit is appropriate at this time as well.
Team are at CBN TV. We've seen at rallies there are crowds and a lot of support. Even with the big gains, how do you plan to keep the base energized after the back-to-back defeats, Mr. PNP President?
Well, after a campaign ends, there's a process of reflection, there's a process of analysis, there's a process of reconnection with our base and our supporters. And there's also, I think, there are some reforms internally that we need to pursue as well to strengthen our overall organization. So the way in which we plan to handle the matter would be through a period of careful analysis of what took place and a recognition of where there are weaknesses that need to be strengthened, and the deliberate pursuit of changes that will strengthen those weaknesses. So, one doesn't energize the base from the start of a 5-year term of government. Energizing the base comes from the kind of process involved in campaigning. But what we need to ensure is that we stay in touch with our base, that we strengthen our constituents in divisional organizations, so that when the time comes, we're able to deliver an effective result. And we are starting now from a much stronger position than we have enjoyed over the previous 5 years. With just 14 in Parliament before, it was much more difficult. Only 14 MPs out of 63 were PNP MPs. Only 14 out of 63 PNP MPs got state resources through the Constituency Development Fund to help to do the work that they have to do. So it's moving from a very limited base in Parliament is difficult, and it required extraordinary effort to take us where we are now. With 28 seats to their 33, 35, I mean, the situation is much more balanced, and that will enable us to build on that, to be even more effective next time around.
But you also pointed out partly that there's an engagement in the field from now, in the reviews. I believe, certainly speaking from my own constituents and from talking to others who have yesterday's meeting, that process of engagement will be helpful, because a lot of the concern and the sense of rejection that is there comes from some of these things complaining. And I think once you're on the ground investigating, giving people an opportunity to speak and to vent some of that frustration, I think that will be part of the process of healing and engagement. part of the process of healing and engagement. So I think that process will be ongoing.
Morning again. Indulge me a couple of questions. One, given what you have described as acts of voter suppression, can you indicate whether or not PNP has made a formal complaint about electoral fraud or irregularities to any state organ? And if so, in what constituencies? That's one. Two, can you indicate, sir, what is the projected spend for the People's National Party during this election campaign? Can you say also how was it funded and what percentage is corporate donation? And then finally, personally, Mr. Golding, is this disappointing for you? And if so, how disappointing?
So your first question was whether a formal complaint has been made to any state organ in respect to the voter suppression of which we speak. The answer to that is no. We are, as I've said, going into the field to do a survey so that we can get more tangible information rather than the indirect reports that we have been receiving. Through the reports we're receiving is really through both things like social media, but also more importantly through the campaign structures that we have. But we want to go into the field and get more, a more comprehensive survey of what takes place. At that point, we can decide, where we go from here. There isn't really any state agency that is mandated to address that issue. That's one of the challenges we have. So it's that is something we'll have to consider carefully as the best way to proceed, to deal with this. Some of these things may require a strengthening of the electoral law itself, the Representation of the People's Act, which, to take into account the kind of methods and tactics that are being employed in this era relative to when that law was last amended or reviewed. Other things may just require an internal response as to how we manage that kind of process going forward. So that's my answer to your first question. Your second question was about campaign finance. Yeah. I haven't seen from our treasurer yet a final report on the level of funding raised and expended. Based on my assessment of it or knowledge of it, I would say most of the funding that we raised came from donors. Some are corporate donors, some are individual donors. And I'm very sure that they were within the overall envelope allowed by the law in terms of the limits. I can tell you that because I have a sense for the numbers, but I don't have the specifics. And the third question was about yeah, it's a mixed feeling. I feel pleased that we are on the up and up, that we have managed to double the number of MPs that we have in Parliament, that we are going to have a team in Parliament now that is going to be formidable as an opposition, given the people who won. And we have an excellent team. And the fact that we got 97,000 more votes this time than we got in 2020 is also significant as an increase. Our opponents got 5,000 more. So it was a definite improvement in our performance. Disappointment at the same time that we weren't able to deliver that final, 5 additional, call it 4, that we needed to just have 32, which is the threshold for winning. That was disappointing. And when we look at the seats that we thought we would have won and didn't, we have to look carefully at why we weren't able to prevail there. I think that the reasons for that were more to do with factors that took place on election day itself and maybe the night before or 2 nights before, rather than the campaign as a whole. I think the campaign as a whole, we ran a pretty exemplary campaign. I think it was a much more active campaign than our opponents in terms of presence on the ground and meetings and rallies. and the attendance at those rallies. I think our manifesto was delivered in a reasonable time so people could digest it and was well received. I think that our performance in the election debates, where most people feel that we won each of the 3 debates, was also significant and helped us along. But we weren't able to actually cross the line first because things went on, as I said, the very end of the process, which we were not able to respond to effectively on it. And for that, we must all take some responsibility, including me as party president. Is there somebody determining who speaks, right? Yeah.
Morning, gentlemen. What positives can you take from the campaign? Excuse me. Yes. What positives can you take from the campaign? And what are your views generally about your team, the team you put together? Okay, it's a bit disappointing to lose, obviously, but when you reflect back, to say 5 years ago, from where you came from there to where you are now, what positives? And secondly, what plans do you have to bolster your treasury? You're definitely a political force in this country again, and maybe perhaps the treasury angle of it will get you over the line, maybe possibly next time. But you have to have an effective treasury if you're fighting a campaign in the 21st century. So what do you see going forward? How do you entice, say, the business community, other people to bolster that treasury campaign?
Yeah, in terms of positives, I think that we now have a united party. We have a team that is working together and has worked together well throughout the campaign. I think that the organization as a whole is strong. That's not to say there aren't areas that need improvement. There are. But we did significant training, for example, of our workers for the last several months. And we were really building on the success in the local government elections, February 2024, where we won the popular vote quite handsomely there. And we ended up with six municipal corporations and the city municipality of Portmore making 7, which is the same number as the JLP have, but we have one more division than they do. So there's been a kind of process over the 5 years of building an improvement, which I think was reflected in the 97,000 additional votes that we got and the 14 additional seats that we won. Now, going forward, you mentioned the Treasury. I mean, we got, I would say, good support from the donor base that we have, corporate and individual. We were able to finance our program. We didn't have the sort of additional resources for deploying in the field to do the sort of things that we were up against, and that was never part of our budget. Anyway, we weren't seeking to do that. That's not a strategy that we employ. But, in terms of being able to pay our media houses for the advertising that we had booked and developing that advertising and paying our party workers, for their efforts and the paraphernalia and so on that we were able to hold our own. And going forward, we will just be encouraging Jamaica to understand the importance of maintaining financial balance in how they fund political parties, because if one party has excessive resources relative to the other, it can affect the democratic outcome of elections quite easily. So, these are the sort of arguments that we impress upon donors, and we get good response for the most part. So I don't have any issue really there with the fundraising side of the campaign.
Yes, good. All right. Greetings to all at the press table. President MG, this one is for you, sir.
Who is this?
I am Baba Tunde's Stargate Communications. Before I get into my questions, I would just like to start on a positive by saying there are some things that you initiated that changed the experience for the Rastafari community, when especially from with the ganja experience and all. What it more than ever do, you know? But we must acknowledge when positive moves make. So we kick off the party. So the first question. Seeing all our sin now, maybe some 8, 9 days after the election, was the People's National Party fully prepared? I have two more. I don't know if I have a pause and answer, I go with the other two and then.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we didn't ultimately win the election suggests that there are areas where our preparation could have been stronger. You know, I think that what we have come to realize going through this experience is that some of the tactics that we have to manage are not normal, orthodox in the book tactics, but are things that are being deployed quite effectively by our opponent, which we haven't yet, I think, mastered a methodology of responding to. So I think I would say, what would you regard as the orthodox way in which campaigns are conducted and way with political organization is done, we were ready. But in terms of specific seats, which though those tactics were being deployed, our response to them was inadequate.
All right. So in your preparation going forward, it's a little bit of small advice that you don't have to pay for. Art of war must be studied. Next question for you now, President MG. The positive way forward, and there are aspects of your manifesto that are tangible and excellent. What plans are in place to not wait till 2030, but to one, empower the people and implement where it can. Much appreciated for listening. You got those?
Yeah, I mean, in response, I think that I need to actually say something about that. Our manifesto was our series of policy proposals and programs that we intended to roll out during the first five-year term that we were in government. Those things require being in government to be rolled out. An opposition party gets no state resources to implement plans and programs. We get a modest stipend as MPs to run a constituency office, and that's it. And then there's the CDF, which is a modest sum which hasn't been adjusted for inflation for many years now, of 20 million a year, out of which 1.5 million pays an administrator. So it's 8.5 million to be spent in a constituency with residents typically exceeding 40,000 people. So, you know, I don't want to pretend that the opposition will be in a position to roll out things like the First in Family Scholarship or build 50,000 housing units at an affordable price for people, or to implement rent to own to enable persons who are currently excluded from the mortgage market to become owners of their own home, or indeed a disability fund to help persons with disabilities with $1 billion in it, and those sort of things. Those are things we want to do with reform government. What we will be able to do is individual MPs who have won will be able to pursue their own particular set of policies that they had brought to the people. You know, some of them will take time. It won't happen overnight. Resources are always an issue. And to the extent they're able to garner additional support through creative methods of fundraising and using the goodwill of people who might want to support those initiatives, that will determine how quickly they can do what they want to do. But it's going to be more on a constituency and an MP level that things you would see things happening rather than nationally, because an opposition party is not able to, or indeed expected to, implement national policies. That's for the government of the day.
Just two more, one for Anthony Hilton and one for you, Mr. Golding. Mr. Hilton, you put forward the suggestion comparing Jamaica's electoral process to that of Guyana, which has a history now of concerns about the process. Whereas here in Jamaica, we had the OAS, CARICOM, as well as CAFE, all suggesting that elections were free of harassment, free of intimidation, or any other irregularities. So far as going as to commending us in terms of our conduct here and to put forward Jamaica as a model that the Caribbean can follow. Isn't that a bit out of sorts in terms of that assessment by you in terms of irregularities? And to you, Mr. Golding, your predecessors have all offered their resignations to the wider party following an election loss. Will you not do the same, or will you simply take up your post as opposition leader going into the parliament?
Let me look. You want to go first?
No,
And let me say, I think
Just answer him with one
I
line,
think
Mr.
the
Golden.
aspects. I think no, I don't think what you characterize as overstatement, notwithstanding anything that has been said by CAFE or any other organization that participated. The EU focus, and I urge you, and I think you have read the EU report. And if you have, then you'll see that they commented on some other aspects of it, much of which we saw in full force here in Jamaica. The issue that we believe needs to be addressed as an urgent matter is the whole issue of the advertising and promotion before and during the campaign with excessive, we believe, excessive state resources. And that aspect of it and others were specifically commented on. So my advice is that whatever the specific limitations or the concerns that the OAS or other monitoring group didn't address, the EU's report, I believe, was much broad-based and some of it very relevant to Jamaica.
If I may add something to that before the leader answers the next question. I think we've been very responsible as a party. I think we've been very responsible. Nationwide carried a story that CAFE said that 21% of the persons at the polling station at 5 o'clock were not allowed to vote. We could easily have created a stir with that to suggest that those persons would have voted for us and it would have changed the outcome of the election. We didn't. We waited for good information, right? For additional information. And we've seen where over the last 2 days, the ECJ has refuted what was carried as to what CAFE had said. And then since that, CAFE today in the paper has clarified that that did not actually take place. So I believe the comment that was made as well was not necessarily comparing the electoral system in the two countries, but about the report that came out of the election. So I don't know how you got to the point of saying he was comparing the two electoral systems. He was speaking to the report that came out and said that there are similarities that we have seen the same thing here. CAFE, CARICOM, and other OAS, other persons that came here would not have been out in the field to see that $100,000 was offered to an indoor agent not to work, or offered to a customizer to give me the canvas of this party. They would not have seen that. They would not have seen what took place in the field. They would have been at the polling station, right? They would not have seen the night before that somebody was offered money to dip their finger in ink and therefore can't show up to the polling station. They would not have seen where we saw some persons, MPs, trying to separate people into lines as to who we are going to vote for, totally inappropriate, right? From a high-ranking member of the Jamaica Labour Party. So the issues that we're bringing forward here are things that we have contemplated on, we've heard about, and not just anecdotal things, but things that we can say these, based on the reports that we've gotten, and there's additional work to do, but there is sufficient evidence to
Nationwide
at this
themselves in
point
the
to
vote
suggest that
buying
there
too.
was indeed an attempt to suppress the votes. Remember that we did run a campaign, where the last credible poll that came up before the election had us ahead by 3 percentage points, right? Not like the one from Nationwide that said we're 13 points behind. That was totally fraudulent, right? And if you
Rub him,
look at
nation,
the
rub
outcome
him.
of the elections, it was within 1%, as in the popular vote. So it was within that margin of error. And that is after all the suppression that took place by the Labour Party and the delayed voting by the ECJ that caused persons to leave the polling station and not being able to participate.
In relation to, well, first of all, I'm not aware of any historic precedent of which you speak. There have been
No boy, I
instances
just
where
nuts.
party leaders have offered their resignation. There have been instances where they haven't, to my knowledge. I serve at the pleasure of the party, and I'm happy to continue to serve in the capacity as leader for as long as the party wants me to. And thus far, all of the MPs who have been elected, all 28, other than one who's overseas traveling, have signed a letter confirming that they have confidence in me and want me to be the leader of the opposition. And that's where it is right now.
If I may add again, if I may just add something to that. I want for us not to mislead the public with some of the statements. There are some things that are being said in the public space that are just not true. Andrew Holness was defeated by Portia Simpson Miller in 2011. It seems persons have forgotten that. He did not resign, nor did he offer any resignation. He stayed there. He did not even make public the appraisal committee report that was done, right? 10 of the 21 MPs signed a no confidence in him. He's the one that saved himself with his casting vote. I also hear persons saying that it's historic, unprecedented, this third term. When they say and one complain about the PNP being in office for 18 years, the PNP has won 4 consecutive elections in Jamaica. So what is historic? It's historic for the JLP that they have won 3 elections. It's not historic for Jamaica. PJ Patterson won in 93, 97, and 2002. Why do we continue to mislead the public in this vulgar manner?
Mark, I just heard what you said. It's one thing to be endorsed by the party and have the party's confidence. But do you yourself, do you want to lead the party? And then
yes, he
secondly, I'd
wants
like
to.
to follow
You
up and
fucking
saying
deaf, sir?
you don't really want to, as a party, enter another period of fractiousness, internecine warfare that splinters the party. I think you've been an MP since 2007.
2017.
2017, beg your pardon. You brought the party back. It seems united. You fell short. You've doubled your seats. I mean, that I think will go down in history. But do you want to lead the charge? It's all very well being endorsed. You seem to have a good support team around you. But in your heart of hearts, do you want to lead the charge going forward?
Me can't answer his fear. Yes.
And secondly, I'd say that you seem to have a deep bench, both in the lower house. What are your plans for the upper house? A lot of bright people around, a lot of people who can take positions. How do you want to lead them and how do you want to deploy?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the composition of the Senate, which is, you'll hear more very shortly on that. In terms of my own personal aspirations, Al, I feel a continued commitment to my country, Jamaica, where I was born and where I've lived all of my life other than when I studied abroad, and which has been very good to me, and which my parents, instilled in me a sense of service to the people of Jamaica. And I am willing to continue and plan to continue to serve my country through the political process as leader of the People's National Party, moving ahead, going forward from the significant achievements that we have. manage to garner in these elections to a victorious result next time round. And as I said, I serve at the will of the party. And so as long as the party has confidence in me to continue, I will be here.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope it was informative, and have a great day.
Well, that's our press conference concluded. What I take from this press conference is that as a
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 40.
As a country, we must, as the People's National Party and leader has done, respect the results of the election, move on, and make sure we keep the base alive and hold this government to account. Bear with. Keep the base alive and hold this government to account. Regardless, we understand the all the anomalies of this election that would have denied the People's National Party their rightful place. What we must do is respect the results, move on, strengthen the opposition, and make sure we in social media land and on the base keep the base alive. Based on how things are going, there could be, sorry, let me turn on back this. Sorry. There could be an election at any time because you know how it all go with Andrew and many ongoing investigation of the whole of them. So let us move on. What Mark Golden is and his team is seeming to want to do is to strengthen the system going forward rather than probably fight a losing battle at the moment based on how things are actually run and controlled, such as the Electoral Commission, based on the lack of evidence on things that JCF would have to investigate for vote buying and voter fraud and so on, or rather the Electoral Commission would want to investigate voter suppression or look into their flaws or tactics. All these would be a much difficult task for them to mount if cannot provide the hardcore evidence to say these are the actual facts. So Mark Golden, what I gathered, want to look at strengthening the system for the foregoing to make sure in the future we have more free and fair election, and the limitation of public resources pump into election through black tank fertilizer, chicken feed, and issuing out money and all of these systems. So this is where they want to, and I would assume they're going to try to bring forth things in parliament to do that. So what we must do is stand behind what is now a strong opposition, which will hold the government to account meaningful, which will change the dynamic and composition of parliament, and it will banish a lot of the dictatorship that is in Parliament at the moment in relation to the House Speaker, the committees, as well as how Andrew Holness used to put draconian legislation through Parliament in the dead of night. With this strong, robust opposition, all this has come to a sudden death. So what we must do out here on the ground and in social media land is keep the base of the party informed and together, so when the bells strike again, the People's National Party is in a stronger position than what they had come out of with the just gone general election. Thank you all very much. I hope that press conference bring clarity to you on the People's National Party position. Cousin D's Wagwan, Nick's Wagwan, bring clarity to you on the People's National Party position, and that we now move forward supporting the strong opposition we have, holding the government to account. 1, next month will be Andrew's court. And 2, we know that reports will be dropping at some point. So it will be an exciting place in Parliament. It will be the go-to place for content in the next, once Parliament has reconvened and they've all sworn in. Even the thieves, even the thieves that are returning, such as Andrew Holnett, Gillette, Mary Sedal, Wimper, Filbert, Everard Warmington, Bobby Montague, and so much of them. Even the cleanup woman, Favour Williams. I mean, lot of it. Anyway, thank you. Thank you all for being back with us for the People's National Party press conference. Please do join us back tonight for the People's Point of View, when we will look at, probably go back on Kevin and Gashole Brown. They have lost credibility. The Director of Elections, Gashole Brown, and the Commissioner of Police, Kevin Blake, with the DR title, they have lost all credibility. The Jamaica people no longer believes in the office they hold, or them as the office holder. Thank you and good evening.
Oh, thy peace, the God of my salvation, because the mouth of the sinful and wicked is open. Rastafari. Come with I. Rastaman throw one stone, and it pick a bad feeling to all wicked men. That's a people day. Make a man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Only when man like Marcus Garvey speak, wicked men would I hear. Hear now hear. Instead of that, they only sit aside and rub and cheat, and not press the poor. Make up what I seen to. Make a man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a plan. Make a man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. My favorite part, if Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see the them can sell out Rasta and sell it out and sell out Babylon. They give man show and stone, and if bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Take him and throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. If Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see the dead can sell out Rasta. I sell a house, I sell out Babylon. Just stop on the Friday. If I throw a stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a black thing. If I throw a stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. You have eyes to see, let him see. You have ears to hear, let them hear. What a prophet must say. President Mandela was in prison for 20 odd years. And he leave from the prison and take the seat of the president. Stone one. Big him and throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a black big him and throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Rastaman throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men.
If you don't like missing out on the latest shows but still enjoy classic hits, then Global TV Group 358 is your perfect match. Global TV Group 358 isn't just another channel, it's your ultimate TV experience. From breaking news to binge-worthy dramas and timeless classics, we've got it all. Our unique blend of original content and global favorites means there's something for everyone. And guess what? With GTVG's seamless streaming, you can watch anywhere, anytime. Plus, our interactive features let you be part of the action. So, whether you're a seasoned binge watcher or a casual viewer, Global TV Group 358 is here to keep you entertained day and night. Don't just watch TV, experience it with Global TV Group 358. Subscribe now and never miss a moment.